Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2022 Waste Management Phoenix Open DraftKings picks and preview. You want to see each of the picks per range? Hit the time code. Same as they play the best plays lineup at the end. It will all be down there, as will the Listeners League link for DraftKings. It is up to 2,000 spots full already. So there's another 1,000 to go. We fill this by the end of Tuesday. We probably get 4,000 spots, which means 4,000 spots of rake-free money for next week's huge tournament at Riviera. So go fill that up right now. Remember to smash the like button to the episode in the description. Give me your two favorite $6,000 plays at TPC Scottsdale this week, and sub to Mayo Media Network. Leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well if you're out there. Additionally, if you haven't signed up for prizepicks.com yet, shame on you, but they're going to be having some huge giveaways for the Super Bowl, and they have a bunch of golf stuff up right now too. So go to prizepicks.com, use code MMN, and get a match deposit of up to $100, essentially a $100 free bet. So go do that right now. Joining me to break this down tier by tier, it is Dom Cintorino, who is going to tell you to play Francesco Molinari, maybe a double with Guido Micheliazzi. How's it going?
Really good, Pat. Thanks for having me. Unfortunately, no Italians in this field, really. I don't think there is an Italian in this field, so that won't really be an issue today.
Molinari's playing. I like Molinari.
Yeah. Oh, I just overlook him at this point.
Why?
I don't know. He's burned me the last couple years. Almost got him in my season long and just couldn't pull the trigger.
All right, well, let's jump into it. The course is TPC Scottsdale. It's just over 7,200 yards at par 71. You want to make some eagles? You came to the right place. You can get all three of these par fives with a nice drive on 17. You can get that one too, although that's a bit more unlikely. You're far more likely to find the water off the tee on 17 rather than make an eagle. However, even if you put it in the water, you can still get it up and down for par pretty easily. Is there a type of player that you're looking for this week? Because Feinberg was talking about aggressive players, and I kind of side with him on that. I want like, the passive par makers out there. I want guys attacking pins.
Yeah, aggressive to a point. I mean, I think you do need a complete player. Strokes gained off the tee kind of struck me as like, I don't know how much to weigh that in this week, because like looking at the leaderboard last year, 6 of the top 12 lost strokes off the tee. So it's like, yeah, distance is important. Hitting the fairway is important, but at the same time, I just don't know how important. Aggressive wise, I mean, Neesmith led the field last year with 4 eagles, I think it was. So obviously that's going to kind of help you out and push up the leaderboard, but I don't know how aggressive you really want your guys to be.
Oh, see, I'm all for this. See, going for the green and 2 percentage. I mean, eagle rate's a bit tricky because it's a lot of really good putters that are on that list. Like over the past 50 rounds, the top 5 in eagle rate are Adam Long, Kevin Tway, Troy Merritt, Alex Noren, and Hank Lebiota, which is kind of shocking. Oh, no, wait, that's putting. Nah, that's probably why that makes a little more sense. Patrick Rogers, Cameron Davis, Sam Ryder, Taylor the Gooch. Matt McNeely is withdrawn, so it's Robert Streb after him. It's not exactly the players that you would think that would pop up to the top of that list, but let's go to the highest salaries. John Rahm is playing, so obviously being the #1 player in the world, he is the most expensive player on the board. 11.6, this is very pricey. JT is 11 even, then you got Cantlay, Matsuyama, and Big Dick Vic Hovland. 10-2, 1 over in the Middle East, making his first, or second, I guess, PGA start of the season after the Century Tournament of Champions. So how do you see the construction going down this week? Do you think it's going to be like, let's jam in Rahm with one of the other over 10K guys? Or do you think it's more of a balanced type build here where you can take Rahm or Justin Thomas, one of the two, and then you can almost bypass a lot. Like Xander is going to be very popular at 9.7. You can go down to Scheffler at 9.1, Finau at 8.9. Like there are very popular names historically that people like to have in as their second and third man. And you can actually make these lineups work pretty easily because the back end of this field is still pretty strong, even at cheap prices.
Yeah, the 6K range doesn't really drop off all that much compared to a normal event. And the Waste Management this year is a lot stronger than what we've seen in the past. Kind of looking at the leaderboard last year, the pricing, we had Brooks Koepka at $8,800. The only guy that was 10K plus that found their way into a top 5 finish was Xander Schauffele at $11,000. So it's like sure, I think you can jam in two guys. I mean, we saw what Steve Stricker pop here last year. KH Lee was almost bare minimum price. So if you love two guys at the top, I don't see it being that hard down the board to kind of fill out your last four spots.
So does that mean you're all in on Jon Rahm? Because looking at the early ownership projections, and this is a Tuesday morning, I'll have an update on Wednesday on Mayo Media Network when the ownership percentages mature just a little bit, but I just feels like he's going to be 25%. Why wouldn't you? He hasn't won, but he has appeared in the optimal lineup 2 of the past 3 weeks, or 2 of the past 3 starts that he's been in. So why would you go anywhere else?
Right. And an 11-6, I think, like I was saying, is doable this week. I think you can make the case for it. You look at his track record here, never finished worse than, I think, T16. Struggled around the green lately, but he's been hitting so many greens that it really doesn't matter. Usually I would go away from Rahm if I thought it was a little bit shaky down the board, but there are some plays that I think you can make a roster look pretty good, even with rostering Jon Rahm at $11,600 on DraftKings.
Do you have any fades from above $10,000? Because obviously not everyone's playing 150 lineups. Most people aren't playing 50 lineups or even 20 lineups. They're playing 1, 2, or 3. So obviously you cannot play everyone in here. So I think, like, if I'm going to power rank them, I think I'm going to use Rahm. I'm going to use Thomas. I like both those guys. It's going to be very difficult to use them together, obviously. But then it's Hideki. I think you can put Hideki with either one of these guys, kind of backpedal off the 9K range. If you go Rahm Hideki, you still have $7,000 left. And there's a lot of guys like right at $7,000 that I really like this week. So I think that's one potential lineup build. But, like, would you feel comfortable starting with Hideki, or do you think, like, you want Cantlay or Hovland? Like, where are you seeing this?
My fades are probably, I think I'm going to stay away from Cantlay and Hideki here this week. Actually, my favorite play in the 10K range is Victor Hovland. Not even really given the price point. I just think when you get the 3rd ranked player in the world as the 5th highest priced golfer on DraftKings, you can sign me up for that. I mean, is he priced here because of what he's done at the Waste Management Phoenix Open in the past? He had a miscut in his debut 2 years ago. But, I mean, Pat, I was looking at his miscuts, like, in general. Since that Waste Management Phoenix Open back in 2020, he's only missed 2 cuts worldwide, Honda in 2020 and the Players this past year. So I love the fact that he took a week off, did not make the trip to Saudi. 3 wins worldwide, obviously, in his past 5 starts. And we get him at $10,200. I think A, you can either pair him with JT or Rahm, or B, you can really just start here with Victor at 10-2.
If you're going to pair them up, it's like I said, if you go Rahm, Matsuyama, you have $7,000 left. If you go JT and Matsuyama, then it's like $7,300 or $7,200 left. But you can save a lot of money. Like, I really like Hideki this week. Obviously, he's won here twice. He has a second place finish, and it's been a bit more of a struggle for him. But you talk about Hovland winning 3 times in his past 5 starts. I mean, Hideki's won 3 times since last year's Masters, and he's won some pretty good events along the way. Like, I guess the Zozo wasn't all that great, but, like, Sony had a pretty strong field this year, and obviously he won the Masters. He has the history at this course. His tee to green is really coming into form. He even played well at Torrey a few weeks ago. So I'm going to have a really difficult time getting away from Hideki this week. So you could go Hideki Hovland if you wanted to. Obviously, you don't like him. Are we both out on Cantlay playing? I don't like him when he plays back-to-back events. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know what it is. And he's not coming at a value at all. Like, if I'm going 10-7 for Cantlay, I'd rather just pay up the extra $300 for JT or the extra, $900 for Rahm at that point.
Yeah. So I can see starting Rahm, starting Thomas. I'll have a few of those. I think Hideki starts are more than likely where I'm going. As we talk through the $9,000 range, that maybe there's guys that pop up here that are just a little bit better to overall construct your roster. Because we got Spieth coming off the week. I don't think people are going to use Spieth this week. I'm not sure of that, but 9.9's a lot for Spieth. He's more than Xander, and everyone loves Xander. So Xander's going to be through the roof at 9.7. Brooks, Burns, Berger's 92 coming off that back injury, Scheffler, and Bubba Watson. I will not be talked off of Brooks or Bubba Watson. This is kind of my strategy at this tournament. Play those 2 guys, and Hopefully it's once every 3 years when both those guys hit at the same time, because they are tailor-made for this event. I don't care how poorly Brooks has been playing. He was playing like garbage coming into this event last year. He won. He might miss the cut. It's always a live possibility with Brooks. He might be completely off right now, but very few people are going to go to him, especially being priced just under Xander Schauffele, that you might get at like 6% ownership.
Yeah, it's not like we saw Brooks enter last year in good form whatsoever. I mean, he missed 3 straight cuts, which led to his price tag. Kind of the same spot we're in here, just a little bit more expensive. So, yeah, I think Brooks is live here, and like you said, I don't think the ownership's going to be there at all.
Do you think that people will go to Daniel Berger coming off the back injury? Because I've seen his odds price, even whether it be at DraftKings Sportsbook or across the board. Like, he opened low, he went up to like 30, 33, and now he's back down to 28, 25, 22. So it seems like there's a bit of steam on Berger, at least in the betting market. I don't know if I want to trust. If he was going to be like 3% owned, I would go massively overweight on him. But that's just not what I'm seeing right now. It seems like people are still going to use Daniel Berger, maybe 8 to 12%, and maybe I can match the field on that, but I really worry about this back injury.
Yeah, I'm worried too. It always sucks with golf injuries because, like all the major sports, I mean, they just don't have to report it. Like, he could have withdrew last week and not said anything about his back, really. I mean, he could have just said undisclosed, Daniel Berger withdraws. So obviously that he mentioned it's a back issue. We know that he's dealt with injuries. I mean, he was playing on a major medical extension just a few years ago and had to get his PGA Tour card back. So I guess if you want to say Daniel Berger's injury prone for a golfer, you can. It's tough. The price is affordable. I do think he's going to be under-owned here, obviously, because of that injury. Rates out really well for me, but I'll have to see how the ownership kind of progresses throughout the week here.
The issue is going to be that anyone that runs an optimizer this week, Daniel Berger is going to be the stone nuts in that lineup because it won't factor in any sort of injury, and maybe they shouldn't. But when you look at his numbers and his performance, especially with the stats that are weighted in something like an optimizer, approach being the key to all of that, he's number 1 in this field over the past 50 rounds in approach. So obviously he's going to rate out as an extreme value this week. So anyone running an optimizer is likely going to have Daniel Berger in their lineup unless they make some sort of manual adjustment. And we know most people don't do that.
No. One fade for me, I'd say down in this range, Sam Burns. Are you in on Sam Burns at all this week?
I was, but he's Anderker, so I'm out.
Oh, there we go. Just like his approach over the last couple events that he's played in is nothing like we saw even early last year before his win. Obviously had a great 2021 season, but I mean, both events he's played in 2022, he's lost strokes to the field, both tee to green and on approach. So until I see something, I mean, I feel like Burns at 9,300 is still priced like he's in great form. Am I wrong?
I think he's in. Listen, the form of the first 2 events hasn't been great, obviously, but he's still getting a lot of credit for what he did during this one. Basically, since Valspar last year, he's been excellent. So I think the price is fine. It's a worthy price. It's whether you want to be in or out on him. And obviously, you can't use everyone. And just like the 10s, can't use everyone in the 9s. So Bubba and Brooks are where I want to go. I'm going to find it hard to get. I think you need to not play one of Xander or Scheffler unless you start your lineups with Xander and save the money that way, because that build is going to be a little bit more contrarian. But Scheffler's ownership is going to be through the roof. Like Rahm Scheffler is going to be a very popular lineup start.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Scheffler's in a really good spot. $9,100 is obviously very affordable if he's your second guy in. T7 last year, missed cut in his debut, but the way he played at Farmers the last time we saw him, I mean, his stats just jumped off the page. 4th in ball striking, number 1 in greens and regulation, and 2nd in good drives gained. So I'm in on Scheffler. I just don't know how much I want due to the ownership here.
Will you play Bubba? Because I'm definitely playing Bubba.
I don't think I will. Just because, and the only reason being the trip to Saudi, obviously he looked awesome. 2nd place finish. If it wasn't for Varner making a 60-foot putt to end it, Bubba was right in that thing for a playoff. So, I mean, it's his first event since the Northern Trust in August on the PGA Tour. He didn't close out the year too well. But like I said, it's really the trip from Saudi back over here. Does that play into what you're willing to do here with Bubba at all, or no?
I don't care about that. It's not like these guys are me being jammed into the last row of a plane coming over. Like, these guys are flying private. It's fine.
That's fair.
It's just like when we get to Louis. Like, Louis hasn't played so far in 2022. I don't really care. I'm going to play Louis. I think the issue with Bubba here is, and the case that I think people are going to make, is that he is objectively the worst player of this guy in this price range. Like, if you just go after Bubba, you got Finau, Louis, Fitzpatrick, Webb, and Adam Scott, all cheaper than him. And it's not difficult to make a case that all of 5 of those guys are much better than Bubba Watson. I don't care. I'm going to lean with the skill set, lean with the history that he has at this course. I mean, there's a reason that he's coming over to play here. He's getting geared up. And I don't know how many more great seasons Bubba Watson has in him, but it starts here. And Feinberg pointed this out. Like, generally when he has his good years, it starts in Phoenix. And if his putter isn't broken anymore, like, I'm not too concerned about the ball strike. He can figure that out, no problem. I know he's never won here, but he does have 4 top 5 finishes in the past 7 starts. So obviously something about this course gets it going for him. I mean, it's almost like the Brooks logic. I mean, Brooks is a much better player. So that is a, feather in the cap for Brooks, but there's no form whatsoever coming in. You would just look at his numbers and be like, this guy sucks. I'm not going to play him. But he's Brooks. It's Phoenix. He's won here twice, including last year, coming in no form, like we said. So maybe you don't play them both in the same lineup. Hell, maybe you do. I'll play both of them in the same lineup. I don't give a shit. I lose money every week anyway. I might as well do it this way, with the way that I want to lose money. But I think this all kind of rounds about into, I'm not going to play Scheffler. That has to be the fade for me, because everyone is going to be on him. And then just pray he doesn't come inside the top 10.
Yeah, and I mean, with Bubba's course history as well, I mean, seeing that solo second last week at Saudi is a good thing, really, based off of what we saw throughout last season. I mean, he didn't have the best year, but closed out with a 64 over there. So who's to say he's not in great form coming into Waste Management this week? And like you said, with the whole flight thing, I don't think he would play in Saudi if he was worried about travel time. So
yeah. I mean, just go over, get your payday, try to win some more money, come back to Phoenix, have a good time at a course you love. Do you think you'll play Spieth?
I don't. I don't see myself getting there, and it's kind of the Cantlay narrative for me, just seeing them off of a high finish last week, back-to-back events, and it's just the price point. I just don't see myself being able to pay that for Jordan Spieth this week.
But I mean, we talked about it doesn't really matter, because you could jam 2 $10,000 guys. And yes, value-wise, that's not going to look very good with Jordan Spieth being priced over someone like Xander, who's just been a better DraftKings player. But we saw Spieth make his run here. This is where he kind of reignited his career a year ago. Obviously, he looked good at Pebble, came T2. I just don't know how many people are going to go to Spieth, and it's not like I don't like him here. And the one thing that he did well Saturday and Sunday at Pebble Beach was his irons were on fire. He was the best player in the field with his irons. Couldn't make a putt, couldn't really drive, didn't have to chip whatsoever. So I assume that his around the green game is still pretty good. But if he's going to start dipping and no one is going to use Spieth, I think you can make a pretty compelling case for him as an amazing leverage play here.
Yeah, and even last year at Phoenix, he did not have the course history here. I think he was coming into the event and having missed his last 2 cuts at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. His form last year was obviously not good. He was 3 of 8 with no top 35s. His round of 61 on Saturday last year is one that I'll just never forget. It was like, is Jordan Spieth back? Like, that was awesome to watch. The guy was just rolling in putts from everywhere, led the field and approach by a ton, 7.8 strokes. And it was his best measured round since like 2018. So obviously he found something here last year. If the ownership does dip down, he'll be an intriguing tournament play for sure. Yeah,
I think that's it. So now I really need to cull the field here, because right now I have a highlight next to Spieth, Xander, Brooks, and Bubba. So that means a fade on Burns, Berger, and Scheffler in the 9Ks. Probably needed to lose one more guy, or really kind of, yeah, it really depends on how many lineups. If I end up playing 50 lineups, I can, of course, play all these guys. But if I cull that down to 20, I probably need to drop at least one of them, maybe 2. And we'll see how that goes. But Spieth, and I mean, I'm not giving up necessarily on Berger yet. I want to see what the projections look like for him in terms of ownership. Like I said, I think because of the optimizer percentage on him, that he's going to end up carrying a lot of ownership. It's sort of the reverse for Spieth, where there is no optimizer on the planet that is going to give you Jordan Spieth this week. It's just not going to happen.
No, it's not. Even off of last week, he was just playing so bad before that. it's not going to pump out Jordan Spieth. And even if it does, people will see the $9,900 price tag and move on.
Yeah, Spieth, Brooks, and Bubba are all going to be the non-optimal plays this week. So those are the guys that I want to play. I love playing non-optimal lineups in tournaments. That's the move for me. But with Spieth too, like he didn't make a putt really. Like he putted okay, but it wasn't like last year, like you mentioned, he was making putts from everywhere on Saturday. And he just didn't have that round at any of the courses at Pebble a week ago. And you know that's brewing in him. How long can you keep Jordan Spieth down on the greens for making like 4 30-foot putts in a round?
I mean, it can happen at any given time. Obviously, seeing him do it last year on these greens, which are a little bit different than typical greens we see on tour. I mean, why not Jordan?
I mean, they're super fast. Obviously they're not as fast as they are at Augusta, but just go back and look at the guys that have played really well and won at this course. Brooks. I mean, Hideki just won the Masters. The Players is also another course where you have exceptionally fast greens. So maybe there is something to that just when you speed up the greens to their highest extent, that all of a sudden that Jordan Spieth just starts draining putts. They were a little bit slower last week until Sunday, and I think that really threw everyone out of whack, except for Tom Hoagie, apparently. 8K range. Yeah. We got, I mentioned them, Finau, Louis, Fitz, Webb, Adam Scott making his PGA debut, but he was T10, T11 over in the Middle East to kick off the year, so he's in pretty good form. Seamus Power. I mean, he got Andercurse midway through Saturday, and that was the end of poor Seamus. Corey Connors, Henley, Hoagie coming off the win, obviously, and then Harris English, who just really has not had it going on so far this season. From the 8s, Louis and Connors are my looks here. I think that maybe all I do. It's hard to fade Finau at that price, but you want to talk about someone who's like not playing well, it's Tony Finau.
Yeah, I mean, he is coming at a discount, but at the same time, given his form, I don't think I'll even get there at that price tag. Like you said, I'm all in on Louis this week. $8,800 seems like a very fair price. Like you said a little bit ago, last event was the RSM Classic at the end of November where he withdrew after the first round. But I mean, what he's played here 2 times in the last few years, or 2 times since 2017. And he's T11 last year, T3 in his debut in 2017. It just seems like early in his career, he was very selective with which events he wanted to play. You saw him play like 12 to no more than 20 events. And last year he played 21, and it seemed like he was kind of adding a couple stops to his schedule.
I think he was pressing it because he was playing so well. Just let's make as much money as possible here. And it's funny because he didn't win a major yet. You could really argue that last year was the best year of his career. He was in like the final group at 3 majors. So great year for Louis. And I mean, I love Justin Ray, but he put out the stat that I was sitting on. I was just saving it for this show, but he puts it out there, so now everyone knows. But Louis, in his first start of the year, in 2 starts at Waste Management, he's 3rd in T11, like you mentioned. But Louis, in his first start of the year worldwide since 2009, 13 starts, 4 wins, 9 top 10s. I'm not too concerned about him not being in form by the time he hits the links on Thursday.
Especially what we saw like to close out 2021. No concerns whatsoever.
No. And Connors, for me, I'm going to Connors. I wrote him up on DKNation.com if you want to check that out. And I think I might go with Adam Scott. I don't know if I'm going to end up betting Adam Scott, but at $8,500, I think that's a pretty good price because I'm terrified of the Webb and Finau form. Let others play them.
Oh, yeah. And other guy in this range towards the bottom, do you make anything of the discrepancy with the Russell Henley price in terms of betting compared to DFS? Because DraftKings Sportsbook has him at the 10th best odds to win right now. And if you're looking DFS wise here at $8,200, he's the 20th highest priced player.
He is going to push 20-something% ownership. I think he's a nice fit for this course. Obviously, Henley's a lovely player, but I know. If he's going to be the guy in the 8s that everyone is using, it's sort of like Scheffler in the 9s. If he is the guy that everyone is using in the 9s, I'm just going to pick my poison, try to fade those 2. Like it didn't work out for me last week because I went full fade on Cantlay, full fade on Day, and full fade on Mav, and full fade on Tringali. Just 0% of those guys in any of my lineups. And Cantlay was really the only one that burned me, but I used a ton of Spieth, so Spieth outperformed Cantlay, so it kind of worked out in that regard. Using Justin Rose was my problem last week. If I had just used Day instead of Rose, although he didn't finish all that well, he still came inside the top 30, which would have helped me by the time it came down to it. it. So I think you need to make a hard line stand here. Like, do you want to use a chalk Henley? He's a good value. If you're playing head-to-heads and cash games, I think he's going to rate out really well. He's going to be very highly owned in that. But if he's going to carry 20% in the giant $20, like, pass. Like, let Russell Henley beat me. How often does that happen?
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often, that's for sure. So obviously, if you're going with Henley, you have to get different towards the top, like we kind of talked about some of the higher owned guys. So, I mean, it just depends how you want to make your build, really.
It does. Like, I would feel more comfortable going back to Hoagie at $100 cheaper at a third of the ownership. Like, I don't know, Hoagie's in better form than Henley.
And people hate playing guys after a win.
Oh, despise it. And I think I would like to see the details on this. I mean, I probably don't, because it would probably ruin my narrative, and I don't need facts messing up what I'm saying on this show. Don't need that. Don't need to be fact checked. But I do have a sense, a feelings type thing, where it's a first-time winner. It's a guy who's not used to winning. I could see this being a really big week for him. He's got $1 million deposited into his bank account. It's a life-changing amount of money for Tom Hoagie. Not that he was, like, poor. He's been playing pretty well on the PGA Tour. I'm sure he's making some fine money, but this is a life-changing win for him. The pressure is off of him now. He has his tour card for the next 3 years. He's into the Masters. He has, money where he can start building generational wealth at this point. It'd be different if it was Brooks who won last week. Does that make any sense to you? Like, guys that have won a bunch of times, they're used to winning. Like, this is just something new in his life that he's never experienced before, that it can play that pressure. That doesn't mean I'd fade him, especially if, like, Hoagie versus Russell Henley at this price and this ownership. I'd rather play Hoagie, but I might just not play either of them at the same time.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a bad idea either.
Harris English has been bad, like really bad. We can't use him, right?
No, I'm skipping right over him, and that's mainly because of who's priced directly below him.
Oh boy. Well, you have one of two options there. I think one's a good option, one's a bad option. I'll probably end up playing the bad option, because that's how my mind works. But before we get to the sevens, I did want to ask you very briefly about Fitz, who really got better as the week went along at Pebble. He's going to be a forgotten man down here. No one likes to play Fitz in fields like this when he's this price. You need him to be about $1,000 cheaper before he becomes a super popular play. Do you have any feel for him?
I don't mind Fitz at this price point. It's probably a stay away for me just because of where Louis is. I'll throw him in a couple, I would imagine. He wasn't great off of the tee last week, but it's good seeing Fitz kind of round into form. I had high hopes for him last year and didn't really do all that much, but given his price tag, I don't think he's going to be too popular.
No, especially with the names that he's around. When you're sandwiched in between Louis, Finau, and Webb, it's going to be a tough sell for old Matthew Fitzpatrick. What do I have him coming in? He's never played this tournament before, but that's not. Look, Brooks won in his first start. Kyle Stanley won in his first start. Maybe I can throw Fitz into the mix. If I have, again, this all depends on how many lineups I end up playing. It's going to be Louis for sure, Connors for sure. After that, I like Scott, and then maybe Fitzpatrick, but he still might not crack what I end up doing with my lineups. $7,000 range. Is it Answer or is it Horschel you like?
It is Answer by a lot.
That makes more sense than Horschel, but I might just play Horschel because he's Billy Horschel, and he'll chip in 5 times.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with Horschel. It was crazy to see, like, his year-end world golf rank, just, like, how consistent he was throughout the year. But I don't think I can get there. Answer's just, like, it kind of has a Brooks feel for me last year, coming in not that great of form. $7,900 for the type of player that Abraham Answer is an extreme value. I think we can thank his slow start for this price tag. He putts well on faster greens, has had success on some of these intermediate length courses. And, like, if you look at his stats top to bottom, he hasn't been playing all that bad. He's just really been let down by the putter, losing at 2 or more strokes on the green in all 3 of his events this year, which I don't expect to continue. So I'm going to have a lot of Answer at $7,900. I think no matter what build you do, you can fit him in, and just given the profile of player that he is, $7,900 is an awesome value.
Yeah, he is another guy coming back from Saudi. He was top 10 in Saudi last week, so that seems to be flying under the radar at the same time. Horschel has made his last 7 cuts over the past 7 years in Phoenix. He's made 8 of 9 cuts in his career at this tournament, but he only has 1 top 10, which is just really bizarre.
Yeah, that is a little bit weird, but given it's Billy Horschel, that's not too shocking to me at all because, I mean, it's a guy that just makes cuts and will get a win every now and then. So he's just priced in a tough spot for me.
Just looking at the early ownership projections, it doesn't seem like many are going to Answer. I can do that. If I can get a single-digit Abraham Answer, I'm with you. I'm in on that. I like that. That's really good. There is sort of a players crossover with this course. Maybe it's just the winner's circle. Maybe it's quality of field where really good players end up winning this event, and then they also end up winning at the Players' Championship as well, whether it be, I mean, Hideki didn't win, but Hideki has performed really well at the Players over the years. Webb has won both. Brooks has a second-place finish there as well. Phil has won both. Who else has won both? Kyle Stanley most certainly has not won both. Ricky has won both. But Answer is someone who plays the TPC Sawgrass really well, plays really well at TPC courses overall. That narrative really gets attached to KH Lee, but it's kind of the same thing for Abraham Answer as well. I mean, what are his odds this week? You didn't even really click on my radar. Is he like 60 to 1?
50 was around 50 when I looked.
Yeah, 55 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. May have to give that a look because I don't know what I want to do with the top yet. I got Brooks and Bubba on the card. Might go Answer and pick one of these jabronis from the top. Maybe Hideki. Doesn't feel... Do you think that Hideki's been at 18 all week? I know that he's popular, but it really feels like no one is betting him at 18. Do you think we can catch a 20 by Wednesday?
I don't think it's going to move just based off of his course history and what he's been able to do here. And given his recent form, I just don't... Even if nobody's betting him, I don't think the books want to push it to 20.
All right. List is going to be super popular. I mean, both optimal lineup wise, when you run an optimizer with the stats, he's coming off a win. This seems like it's going to be a really good course for him. I don't know if I like fading Luke List, the #1 player tee to green over the past 24 rounds. This feels like a course that would be really good for him, by the way. #1 in that key proximity range from 175 to 200 over the past 50 rounds as well. So do you think you can pass on a chalky List here? Because last time List was chalk, he won.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be able to pass on him just because of the whole coming off of a win narrative. I know that means absolutely nothing, but as good as he putted at the Farmers, I just don't see him keeping that up. He's now priced appropriately as to where he normally comes in on these optimizers, and I think there's just so many guys kind of like you mentioned earlier in the show, sitting around 7K that you don't really have to pay up the $7,700, especially, I mean, it really just comes down to Answer for me. When Answer's sitting there at $7,900, I look at those two players completely different. I mean, I think they're in 2 different tiers.
Do you think it's going to be odd when Ricky is more owned than Answer?
No, not at all. Just because people love playing Ricky, including myself. I mean, after last year, I think I used him in one and done at this event last year. And that was when I almost gave up all hope in early February. But no, that doesn't shock me at all. People love playing Ricky. Had a good track record here, but I mean, the last couple times, not all that great.
Yeah, he used to have a good track record at a lot of places. He doesn't have that anymore.
No, it's all gone. And even like there were some like Spieth when he was not playing well, you'd see he was still pushing made cuts at the Masters and like doing decent finishes at the Masters. You just don't see that from Ricky, especially at Phoenix. And I mean, that's kind of alarming.
No one will play Siwoo. No one will play Kisner. No one will play Damon this week. Cameron Davis is another player that no one will use, who I actually really like. He's $7,200. I think Keegan Bradley will get a little bit of steam just based on past performance and the ball striking numbers. But I talked about that eagle rate. Like Cameron Davis, I think he led the tour in eagles last year. I actually have no idea what his history is at this course, but he just seems underpriced for a guy that is a really good DraftKings player. He was 10th at the Century. He was 27th at the Sony, 56th at the Farmers, gained on the greens in each of those, and he outperformed his position in terms of DraftKings points in each of those starts. He's never played this event before. I'm not too concerned about that, though. I think that he's a really good fit here, and he won the Rocket Mortgage, which Now, probably has no correlation, but it's nice to see that he has a win somewhere.
Yeah, I like Davis a lot here. I did see that he was number 1 in Eagles last year, made 20 Eagles throughout the course of the year. So that's an aggressive type guy that, I mean, that you're obviously looking for. And I don't see that as being a bad thing. He putts actually very well on fast greens over the past 12 months. $7,200 for a guy like Cam Davis. Like, usually you're getting guys like some random rookie at $7,200. Like, Cam Davis is a legit PGA Tour player who can win any given event. And I'm not too worried that this is his first start here at Phoenix.
I'm looking at the projections in terms of ownership right now. It's like 3% for Cameron Davis, whereas Keith Mitchell, who is $300 more expensive at $7,500, is going to garner like 10, 11%. Like, these guys are very similar type players. And frankly, although Keith Mitchell has the win on tour at Honda, I think that Davis might be the better player.
I think Davis is a better player than a lot of the guys priced above him. He had a great 2021, like you said, including the win at Rocket Mortgage, but a guy who can really get it out there, use this driving distance to his advantage. And if he's putting well on these fast screens, I don't think he'll have any problem here at Scottsdale.
So yeah, List is soaking up a lot of the ownership. It does appear like people are going to Mitchell. The Gooch at $7,800. He's doing very well in the statistical models like he always does. Putnam, people might go back to. And then you got Aaron Wise down at $7,100. He's going to crack double digits. He's going to be the very popular play from down in this range. Him and Mito, who I bet both these guys to win this week. Because this was sort of the strategy that I was taking at the top of the board, where I want to take some of these contrarian guys like Brooks or Bubba or Spieth or even Adam Scott or Louis at that point, because I'm going to eat the chalk with both Wise and Mito. I'm also going to play Italia, Francesco Molinari at 7% ownership. Give me some Molinari. He's a good player.
Yeah, he is. Are you by chance betting Wise and Pereira because they're both on my season-long team? Because if that's it, you're in for a treat, Pat. It's not been going good.
Well, I don't like to hear that. I got Mito at 140, and I got Wise at 110. I think the Wise number has dropped to like 80 or 70 at this point, but he lost over 10 strokes putting at this event last year. That can't happen again.
No, I don't think that'll happen again. I think he was dead last of all players who made the cut because of that. I mean, he was just so bad on the greens. I'm actually surprised how little Wise has played this year. I think this is only his second event. But this is a guy who had a really strong finish in the fall. Still a super young player on tour. Made the cut last year, like we said, but his putting has come around. But last year, obviously, just wasn't it for Wise. So I like your outright on him more than I do the DraftKings play. Just looking at like the price points, I think you have such an advantage playing someone like Cam Davis, just $100 more than Wise, given their projected ownership.
I think that you are right with that, but maybe I'll scale back the ownership on DraftKings because I have this outright. Are we all just a bit too enamored with Mito at 7,000? Because that seems like it's not a misprice based on who I see at the top of the $7,000 range, but I really thought he was going to be $7,600, $7,700. I was shocked by his odds when they came out. Maybe I just think that Mito's a lot better than he is.
I think he's a lot better than a lot of people think. It's just like he's been sitting in the high sevens, low eights on DraftKings, even in some of the stronger fields. When he got his third Korn Ferry Tour victory to get his PGA Tour card, he lost strokes putting in 5 of his first 8 measured rounds, but now he's just been on fire with the putter. I mean, he's gained 2.5 strokes or more in each of the past 4 events. So seeing him at 7K flat is a spot that I think I'm willing to take advantage of, even if he is popular.
Yeah, the long-term past 50 rounds table that I've ran on fantasynational.com. And you can input your own stats if you want to. Go to fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off any of the membership levels. Full access to the weekly, monthly, or annual type members. Doesn't really matter. Just you get 20% off. Use /Mayo at the end of it. Wise rates. So in terms of ratings in the sevens, it's List, who's number 3 in this field. Wise is number 10 in this field. Keegan is number 11 in this field. Mav would have been 12, but he's not playing. Answer is 18. Gooch is 19. Damon is 23. Woodland is 26. Now, for Woodland, it's going back a while with the past 50 rounds. But Damon's someone coming off a good week. No one wants to play Damon this week because he struggled on Sunday. Can we just go back to Joel Damon?
I don't mind that at all. I don't think people are going to play Damon just because of that. It's tough. The one thing I was going to mention, Pat, speaking of McNeely, shout out to DraftKings for not ruling him out on there. I hope everyone locks in their lineups right now and just goes on with the rest of their week. And he's like 3%.
That's really rare for DraftKings, by the way.
It is.
Like usually like the moment it happens, out just appears next to their name. And that's not what's happening here. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm going to do with Woodland yet. I'm thinking about playing him. I'll probably end up betting him rather than playing him. But KH Lee is going to get a ton of buzz. Maybe more in the outright market because his odds were just like 160 or something like that. But this is a much higher price point than you would expect at $7,300. Obviously, the TPC narrative. He was second at this tournament last year. He seems to just be getting a lot of buzz. I don't think he's going to be as chalky as some people may project, but he could push double digits by the time it comes around. Him and Wise are probably the two from down here, along with Mito, depending on how people feel. But you don't need to play all three of them if you don't want to. Being slightly more might push his ownership down than those two, but are you in on KH Lee? Because I can see myself taking a pass here.
I'm definitely going to pass on Lee, too. I mean, I think people see that T2 finish last year and just think he's better than he is. I mean, the guy's been making cuts at a very high rate. I'm not going to take that away from him, but the finishes haven't been all that high as of late. I'd much rather eat the chalk on some of these guys, like you were saying, like Wise or Pereira, or even Pat Perez has been rating out very well for me the last couple weeks. Back-to-back top 10 finishes, a T6 at the Farmers, followed by a T9 this last week at Pebble. Led the field in ball striking, good drive percentage, and he was 5th in greens and regulation, 3 things that I'm weighing into my models pretty heavily this week. So I think Perez at $7,100 is in play here. I haven't looked at his projected ownership, but I can't imagine too many people are going to want to play Pat Perez based off of who he's priced around.
See, I thought that he would end up coming in pretty highly, but the numbers do not agree with me. He's right around 6 to 10% kind of thing. The other one that I thought was going to be shockingly higher was Max Homa, who just seemingly is garnering no interest. Maybe he's more of an outright bet than a DraftKings play because he can kind of blow you up with like a last place finish, but he's never missed the cut here. He's a top 10. He's pretty fairly priced, I think. And just there's so much buzz around Luke List at the moment that everyone's just going to List.
Yeah. And I don't think that's going to go away at all.
Okay. $6,000 range. Like I mentioned off the top, I want to hear your 2 favorite plays of the $6,000 range down in the comment section. I can give you my favorite play. He's the Reaper. He's the Gim Reaper. $6,600 for Doug Gim. I will sign up for that one right away. Let's lock that one in. Where's my guy Nasty Nate Lashley? $6,700. And the Postmaster General, $6,300. JT Poston. For whatever reason, a very good player at the Players Championship, has been really good at this course as well. I'll probably bet him first round leader too. Those are the 3 guys that I really like from the 6s.
Yeah, first one that pops off the page to me is Adam Hadwin at $6,900.
Ooh, okay.
Game's really trending in the right direction. T16 last week, that was kind of sneaky. Lost 2 strokes putting last week, which is not a normality for Adam Hadwin. He was 2nd in strokes gained tee to green, 2nd in ball striking, and 4th off the tee last week. So if he can get the putter turned around here at TPC Scottsdale, I think Hadwin's in play here at $6,900. I'm kind of torn on what to do with Bo Hostler.
Oh, that's easy. Just don't play him. I was thinking about potentially playing Lucas Glover again after he lost me so much money last week.
Yeah, Hostler was a surprise as much as I've liked him over the last couple of years. I mean, I don't think he was on anyone's radar. He obviously got a big bump based off of what he was able to do last week. Made the cut 3 times in 4 attempts here with just 1 top 20. Never gained strokes on approach here, which is kind of alarming. But I don't know. Hostler, $6,700. There's just better ways you can do it. He doesn't rate out too bad. It just depends on if the Bo Hostler of the last year and a half is going to show up.
Well, I will not play Glover and I'll play Hadwin. I like that. I didn't realize he was so good tee to green last week. And Desert Golf. You always have to play Hadwin with Desert Golf. That's his jam. What else do we have down here? By the numbers love Griot. I don't want to play Griot. Do you want to play Griot?
If I'm ever going to play Griot, it's going to be down here unless he really shows me something. I don't think I'm going to get there.
Shez is still hitting his irons really well. He's someone who's contended here. He's lost in a playoff at this event in the past. I think this is his home course, which it is for like 40 players in the field, but very familiar with these confines.
Yeah. One interesting thing, Pat, if we want to go all the way to the bottom.
Ooh, talk to me.
Kevin Chappell.
Oh,
Kevin Chappell. Were you on? Was it last week you were on him or the week before?
Last week, Chappell cost me a spot into the 4,444 last week. So thanks, Kev.
Oh, so here's what Chappell has at stake this week. He's $6,100 on DraftKings. He has one start remaining on his major medical extension. Kind of reminds me of Chris Kirk last year at Sony. I don't know if you remember, Kirk had to finish like second place or win to regain his tour card. Chappell's in a very similar spot. He needs just over 109 FedEx Cup points. That means Chappell would need a solo fifth or better, a three-way T4 and he's safe, a four-way T4 and he's gone. He'd be playing under conditional if that was the case. But I thought it was kind of bold to make Waste Management Phoenix Open your last start on your major medical extension. Like, you got to have some type of confidence to want to go into this field and expect to finish fifth or better. That's just my take.
Yeah, maybe save it for Puerto Rico or something like that.
Exactly. I mean, he's made the cut here twice in his last three trips. None of them were great finishes, but there's got to be something to Chappell deciding to come to Phoenix with his last start to his name.
I'm just looking at Neesmith right now. You mentioned that he was fire with his irons last year, and he was chalk last week, and I think he triple bogeyed 17 or 18 to get MDF'd and not appear on Sunday. I very much doubt anyone is going back to Neesmith here. These are usually the type of guys I like to play, though. Like, there was a reason he was popular last week, and now because he burned you, it's not even like he played all that poorly. He played fine. I think you can go back to him here if you want to. Now, you probably don't need to go into the depths of the $6,000 range, but if you want to play ROM or play one of those like double stack $10,000 lineups, you do have to do that. So it depends, again, on the lineups that you want to construct, but then these guys do become somewhat viable. I think he can make the cut, and he's going to make birdies if nothing else.
Yeah, and I mean, 4 Eagles here last year, like I said, led the field, Matthew Neesmith, and last year there were 2 guys from 6,300 and below that finished T4 or better. So if you want to go heavy at the top, it's not to say that you can't pick the right guys down here. That's a whole lot different than a normal event, or a worse event, I should say, when you're down under $6,500. You can definitely find some value down here.
You got the guts to play Kyle Stanley?
I don't think I do this week.
Former champ.
I know. He's just not doing it for me. Stanley is not doing it for me this week.
That's fair. I think Poston is probably the lowest I'm going to go, in that there is no numbers supporting JT Poston whatsoever. That is more or less just a gut play from me. I think he has played well here in the past. Yeah, 11th, 37th, and 26th, has gained over 4 strokes putting in each of his starts at this course. So there's something about these greens, the greens at TPC Scottsdale, TPC courses in general, where the Postmaster General can get it done. I don't really see anyone else down here. Duffner rates out really well. He was in Saudi last week too, which I don't know what the hell he was doing in Saudi, but he was there. Now he's in the field this week. Other than that, yeah, I think that's it for this range. Don't play Charlie Hoffman is something I can tell you after experiencing that last week.
Yeah, one other guy down there that's kind of interesting is that Austin Eckroat. I mean, he's been rating out pretty well for me. He's an interesting player. And to be honest, Pat, I don't know how like priority rankings and all that works, but I don't know how Eckroat is just getting in every field. I
have no idea, to tell you the truth. I'm not big up on the exemptions. It's not really my field of expertise. But I mean, the guys,
I try and follow it, but there's no rhyme or reason. He's a sponsor exemption this week, so someone wants Eckroat to play.
I mean, he's supposed to be a stud, so the more starts you can get him, the better, and then he can finally play his way to get the regular events coming in. He doesn't need to use up these sponsors exemptions anymore. Yeah, he really devastated me last week after his super hot start on Thursday.
Another guy who was in that little MBF category that I think I had him in one lineup maybe. It was just
I lost 4 of my guys to the MDF right at -4. It was not great news.
And you know they were going to be lights out on Sunday. That's the worst part.
I know they were all going to shoot 62. It's unfair if you ask me. So my priority for this range, I kind of like what you had to say about Hadwin. I think I'm going to bump Hadwin up into that. But Gim, Lashley, Hadwin, and Poston are going to be the 4 that I really gravitate around. If I start playing more lineups, I might throw a click towards Chez Reavie, throw a click towards Hudson Swafford, who I still think can get it done in this range as well. He's one of the better players in the field from 175 to 200. He's number 29 over the past 50 rounds. Hadwin actually rates out 18th in that number, which really surprised me. Neesmith as well, I'll probably throw into that mix.
Yeah, like I said, just seeing Hadwin losing strokes putting last week is just odd. So I don't know. I mean, that's 2 straight events actually. He lost at the Farmers too, but everything else was just on fire for Hadwin, and we get him down at $6,900. I think he's in a great spot.
That brings us to everyone's favorite portion of the show, the best plays lineup. Let's see if we can construct the most popular lineup out there, if we can figure out who the best plays are going to be this week. Do you think this lineup starts with Rahm? Because I think I do.
Yeah. If you're looking at the top, I think that's your safest bet, is going with Rahm.
So this lineup starts Rahm, Scheffler, Henley. I think that's the way that we need to play it. So then you have Mito, you have Pereira. Chuck those 2 in, and then we have $7,000 left. Now it becomes a bit more difficult because we've bypassed some of the more popular names that we can have. That, like, right at 7,000, there's no one else that really starts sticking out anymore. Can you think of a better construction here? Like, do you go... Hell, it does seem like Rahm, Scheffler, Henley is going to be a very popular start. How do we do this? If you go from Henley to List, you could probably get up to Keith Mitchell at the bottom, if that's the way that you wanted to play it, because it does feel like List is going to be pretty juicy as well. Do you have another $7,000 name that you think is going to end up being like a very popular play?
Kind of looking through here. I could really see KH Lee getting some ownership, but I just don't know how much exactly. I guess we could try and throw him in there.
I don't know. We don't have enough money is the problem.
No.
We'd have to go from Henley to List. So Henley to List opens up $7,500. Now you could play KH Lee if you wanted to. Or Keith Mitchell, who rates out actually to be higher owned, so we can throw in Keith Mitchell. So the lineup would look like Rahm, Scheffler, List, Mito, Aaron Wise, and Keith Mitchell. $0 remaining, too. You know, people, when you're playing the best plays, you got to max out your budget.
Yeah, you can't win if you don't max out your budget.
Right.
Everyone knows that.
Well, there it is. That's the lineup. Enter. I don't want to enter with crowns. I want to enter with $5. There we go. That's much easier. I guess you got to save those crowns. You got to save your crowns, Dom. You never know when they're going to come through. When DK crowns become the next Bitcoin, I want to be sitting there.
Yeah, you can't spend it on a T-shirt or a $2 entry or something. You gotta hoard them.
Here's the thing: if I need a T-shirt from DraftKings, I got a guy. Trust me, I can get myself a T-shirt from DraftKings. Don't need to be spending the crowns on those ones. Let everyone know where they can follow you on Twitter and converse with you when you're putting out your bets.
You can follow me on Twitter at DomCinto_11. Usually throw out a bunch of outrights, top 30s, top 40s. Yesterday, Pat actually found a weird number on Rahm top 30 that I hammered. It's probably going to backfire, so might want to take Rahm out of that optimal lineup. But yeah, Twitter at DomCinto_11. If you want to hear about golf bets, how bad the Vikings are, whatever, you can find me there.
All right. Follow me at the PME. Sub to the newsletter where I'll have my final bets of the week, DraftKings ownership, plus some more research notes for you about the Waste Management Open. Plus, you might have some secret shows in there as well, because the Custies are coming up. They won't come out until Wednesday afternoon. The football show with Jeff, Tim, and I will already be out by that. But coming up during the week, I got DraftKings Showdown for Super Bowl, best bets for Super Bowl. So a jam-packed week on the Pat Mayo Experience. Rate and review 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Rate 5 stars on Spotify. That takes literally 2 seconds. So if you could do that, it would help us out big time. Smash like, sub to the channel. And again, the newsletter is down in the description along with the Listeners League link. Let's sub to that and fill that up and do me the solid. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!